It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Trinidad and Tobago. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode covers Trinidad and Tobago's players. Just a note on where we're at in our media casts. Series 21 to 27 dealt with World Cup 2026 qualifying. Series 21, for example, is covering the Asian region, and we actually did preview the preliminary round there. We were hoping to do more previewing for World Cup 2026 qualification, but life got busy for us. We nevertheless still have hopes of covering it, but now we'll have to do it mostly through reviews. So the past, present, and future media cast that we produced in spring 2024 is still relevant. It outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedure in each region. Pretty complex in some regions there. And we're going to add a link to that media cast in the show notes. So we will come back to World Cup 2026 qualifying, but we're going to do that after our current focus, which is the 2025 Gold Cup here, and this episode on Trinidad and Tobago's players. So we're doing this media cast in two parts. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examined the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors to categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. So we'll go into more detail on the career biographies of the players we think likely to reach the finals, and less perhaps even just the names of the players unlikely to get there. Part two will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, probably in early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover some other things like injuries, surprise selections, and our predicted starters. All of that in part two. But part one here, this episode has three sections. In section one, we look at some general information on the team. Section two is the main part. We cover the main candidates in each position. And section three, we summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. Okay, let's begin then. And we move on to section one here, some information on the team. And we're going to look at big names off the squad, but actually this kind of points to a bit of an issue for Trinidad and Tobago. They don't really have a lot of big names, so we'll kind of put one on the list, and Neville Hackshaw here. We usually look for veterans here, which we consider players who have 60 caps or more, but Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have a lot of those. I'm going to speak to that in the closing thoughts, but we'll stick with our focus here. Neville Hackshaw only has 42 caps and 2 goals for Trinidad and Tobago, been with them since 2015 and is 30 years old. He was actually part of the narrative in the first part of this period, but kind of dropped off there. His last game for the national team in March of 2024, and he was part of several Gold Cups, actually usually as a substitute from 2019 and 2021, but a starter in 2023. But as I say, kind of dropped off the team halfway through this. We don't know if he's retired because some of these players do kind of come back into the picture, and at 30 years old, that could well be the case. Anyway, that's it for bigger names who are off the squad. Let's move to recent games. So the period we're covering here goes from the 2023 Gold Cup to up until March, the March games in 2025. So the Gold Cup in 2023 was in June of 2023, and 3 games there, they didn't pass the group stage. After that, we have the 2023-24 Nations League group stage games. That is 4 games in September and October 2023. And they actually did reach the quarterfinals there. So they had 2 games in November of 2023. In 2024, March of 2024, they have a Copa America playoff game there, just 1 game in March 2024. And then they go into a series of friendlies. Actually, these were also in March of 2024 and May of that year. That's 4 friendlies, and really kind of a mix of a recruitment game, kind of a BT player games, and especially in defense, some of the A team or the starters kind of showing up there. So we're not really sure, but we do see some new names there or some lesser used names in some of the games. After that, in June of 2026, they have 2 World Cup qualifying games. So the start of World Cup qualification for CONCACAF there, and that is in June 2024. The next games are actually in June 2025, which we'll just talk about soon. And then in the fall of 2024, again, 4 Nations League group stage games there in September and October. No games in November this time. They didn't reach the quarterfinals. And so in December and in February of 2025, they have friendlies. So 1 game in December there. We actually don't have information on this game, so we're kind of going to ignore it in the media cast. But the 2 games in the 2 friendlies in November, in February of 2025 actually turned out to be kind of important because it introduces new players to the squad, which then show up in their final 2 games, some of them in March of 2025, where they have 2 Gold Cup qualifying matches to reach this Gold Cup. Okay, and they have friendlies in May. Actually, one of them has been played, but we're going to ignore that and save it for part 2. We're going to talk about the managers just around the corner, but just to put that into context for you, I'm going to put it here. So after the 2026 World Cup qualifying matches in June, they let go of their manager, and in comes an interim manager. That manager leads them through the fall 2024 Nations League games, and after that, after those games and before the friendlies, we have a new manager coming in. So we'll talk about that at the beginning of section 2. Okay, let's talk about formations, and this kind of introduces us to some of the chaos on the team because it's quite shocking here. Basically, I'll tell you the ones they use the most. The 4-2-3-1 formation, that is used in 6 of the 24 games that we're looking at during this period. Really 22 games, because we don't know what the formation was for 2 of them. Some of the friendlies we don't have very good information on. So that is only 25% of the games, the formation that they use the most. The formation they use the second most is in just 4 of the 22 games, 17%, 4 of 24, but again, we don't know 2. And then after that, we have about 8 different formations that they use 3, 2, or 1 time. And I won't list them all on here. Well, maybe I'll just copy them for those who are watching the YouTube, but I won't go through them all. It's just a vast array of formations, and we're going to see that with Trinidad and Tobago. They can't seem to settle on much. When we look at players in positions, there are not many positions where there's a settled player in the position. In fact, in some of the forward positions, it almost seems like a different player every game. So we'll talk about that also in our closing thoughts, because I think it's significant for Trinidad and Tobago. Anyway, we kind of looked for a couple of patterns in here. And again, not really any outstanding patterns, because in half of the games they use a two-man central defense, and in half of the games a three-man central defense. Also, in about half of the games they use a single forward, and in about half of them they use a double forward. So very kind of unsettled in their formations. Okay, let's move on to the last order of business here, upcoming games. So instead of warm-up games for this cup, they'll actually be playing the last two of their round 2 of 3 World Cup qualifying games. So round 1 was a bye for most teams, just the weakest teams in that. Round 2, all the CONCACAF teams except the hosts are involved. And 2 of the 4 teams move on to the next round. Here. So they play St. Kitts and Nevis on June 6th, and then they have a tough game just before the Cup, playing Costa Rica away on June 10th. So those games will act as their warm-up games, and hopefully it will be a tight schedule, but I would like to be able to look at those games before doing the part 2 media cast, because that might give us some idea as to who the starters are. Right now, I'll tell you in advance that it's very difficult to say who the starters will be in most positions, and that will become apparent as we go through section 2, which we're moving on to next. So section 2, we're going to look at the candidates and their likelihood of making it to the squad, but we'll talk about the manager situation first. So let's go with the managers. We'll introduce the candidates first, and in this case we will kind of summarize the position over the recent period. So we have Dwight Yorke. His name is in light grey here. That indicates, well, he is a veteran player for Trinidad and Tobago who's retired. That's why he's in dark grey. But actually, as a manager, he should be in light grey because he has no tournament experience. That's what that means. Whereas Angus Eve here is in black script because he has been through a tournament. We're also going to introduce Derek King here. So let's just take a quick look at these 3. Dwight Yorke then, manager of the team. He came in, well, we'll go through the thing there. I'll just do some biographical information. Dwight Yorke is a famous player for Trinidad and Tobago, captain of the team when they were in the World Cup in 2006, and 72 caps for Trinidad and Tobago with 19 goals. So again, the 2006 World Cup is most important competition there. He has been manager of the team since 2024 and was manager of MacArthur FC in Australia. Before that, those are his only 2 managerial experiences. Angus Eve. We won't go into much detail here. He also played for Trinidad and Tobago and was their manager from 2021 to 2024. So our narrative will start with him. He's been involved with the Trinidad and Tobago national team for a while. And then we have the interim manager, Derek King, also a player with Trinidad and Tobago's national team. He appeared in the 2000 Gold Cup, as did Angus Eve. So all 3 of these kind of ex-players. So let's look at the story here. Angus Eve was manager from September of 2021. He led them through the 2023 Gold Cup, where they fell at the group stage. They finished, though, second in the Nations League A group, so that was good. And they reached the quarterfinals, which was good. And they fell to USA there. But even there, they did fairly well, winning the second leg at home. But USA had a goal advantage, so could kind of afford that loss. Anyway, a feather in their cap there. Winning that would have qualified them for a spot in the Copa America, but hope was not dead because they could still reach it through a playoff. However, in March of 2024, they lost that playoff to Canada. Angus's final games as manager were the first games of 2026 World Cup qualifying in June of 2024. And they opened a bit disappointingly there with a home draw to Grenada, but they did thrash Bahamas in the second game. And I'm not really sure why he was let go at the end of July 2023. But assistant manager Derek King came in as the interim manager. And Derek King took them through the 2024-25 Nations League group stage. There they didn't do as well. They finished 4th of 6 in League A, but they did remain in League A. They were demoted there. So that's okay. And then in their search for a permanent manager, it was Dwight York who they decided on. He took over in November of 2024. So as a manager, he's only had that single friendly in December and 2 friendlies in February. And the only kind of official matches he has had were the 2 games in March, Gold Cup qualifying playoff games over Cuba, and won both legs there. So Dwight York, the manager going forward, we doubt they'll change that before the Cup, so we'll consider him a definite candidate. All right, we're not going to do a summary of the position for each position. We're going to save that until part 2, but our focus here is kind of introducing the candidates and their likelihood of making it. So let's go on to goalkeepers. And we will list the candidates. We actually have no one at the definite level, but at the likely level, we have Denzel Smith. And no, sorry, he is at the definite level. We're not going to see a lot of players for Trinidad and Tobago at the definite level because so many positions are unsettled. But the goalkeeper situation is actually quite settled. At the likely level, we have Jabari St. Hilaire, and then at the possible level, Marvin Phillip. So I'll actually say the starter is fairly settled here. The backup keeper is not, as you'll see by the number of candidates we have at the possible level. So in addition to Marvin Phillip, we have Adrian Fonsette, and then Christopher Biggett, and also Aaron O'Neill. And then we have a player not seemingly off the squad, actually retired, is Nicholas Frenderup, which actually surprised me quite a bit. Well, I'll deal with his biographical information now. We normally won't give much on players at this level, but this is an interesting one. Nicholas Frenderup was the starter in the 2023 Gold Cup, and he's only 33 years old, which is not that old for a goalkeeper. But he retired not only from the national team, but in 2024 retired from football or soccer altogether. So the Danish-born Nicholas Frenderup, not a candidate at all here because he is retired. Okay, let's go back and look at some of the main candidates here. So Denzel Smith is 26 years old, and he has 18 caps with Trinidad and Tobago since 2023, and he plays for a small team in the USA, AV Alta. Actually, I wasn't familiar with that name. He's been with them since 2025, and before that played in Trinidad and Tobago, apart from a short stint with a small team in Spain. He was selected for the 2023 Gold Cup. Actually, he was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup, but didn't make it. Selected for the 2023 Gold Cup and was a backup keeper there. But he's become the starter since. He started 15 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. And I should say we are kind of ignoring a couple of games there that we don't have good information on. So the numbers may be slightly off. 15 of their 21 games, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1, and not selected for 4 matches. So Denzel Smith, a definite candidate here. We also have a likely candidate, Jabari St. Hilaire. He's also 26 years old, but only has 2 caps for the national team since 2025. And he plays for Defence Force, one of the bigger teams in Trinidad and Tobago, since 2023. So he first appeared actually in June of 2022. He was on the bench for 3 games there, but then off the team. He returned after a 15-month absence in September 2023 and started one of their remaining 21 games. Subbed in for one and on the bench for 7, including the last 2 matches. So he wasn't selected for 11, but his recent participation has been, or he has recently been called up consistently. So we consider Jabari St. Hilaire a likely candidate based on that. Okay, the first of the 4 possible candidates is Marvin Phillip. And he has been captain of the team. I don't think he is now, but he's a real veteran with 96 caps since 2007. And he is 41 years old now. It looked like he retired from soccer in 2020, but then came back to play for Port of Spain, another big team in Trinidad and Tobago, since 2023. So he's been part of every tournament since way back in 2007. And he was a starter in the 2019 Gold Cup. He actually lost his starting position there, but was a starter in the 2021 Cup and just on the bench in the 2023 Gold Cup. So Marvin Phillip returned to the national team after a 19-month absence in February of 2025 and started one of their remaining 4 games. And was on the bench for 3 others. So kind of coming back into the picture is veteran Marvin Phillip, 41 years old. Next, we have Adrian Fonset, and he is 37 years old, so quite old himself. He has 27 caps for the national team since 2016, and he's been with another big team in TNT for a long time, Police FC, since 2013. He did briefly play for a couple of clubs in the USA. Fonset's first tournament was the 2015 Gold Cup. He's actually been part of all of the tournaments up until the 2023 Gold Cup, where he wasn't selected. He's never been a starter, but he was the one actually who got the starting position after Marvin Phillips lost it in the 2019 Gold Cup. So kind of has a couple of starts there in tournaments under his belt. Adrian Fonset, though, not selected for the even for the preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup. He returned after a year-long absence in March of 2024 and started one of their remaining 13 games. Subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 1. And not selected for 9 matches, including the last 4. So we're going to see a lot of this, especially in the last 4 matches. Those February friendlies and March matches, a lot of changes there. So that's why we have a lot of possible candidates, because we're not sure if he's going to go with the ones who were there before or the ones who just came in at the end. Yes. Okay. The third possible candidate is Christopher Biggett, and he is 29 years old with just 2 caps for the national team since 2023. He plays for Defence Force in at home there, and he got his first cap in September 2023. And then Christopher Biggett started one of their remaining 21 games, subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 12. So actually only 6 matches that Biggett was not selected for, but that includes the last 4 matches. So it gives us a question mark as to what degree he's still entrenched in the team there. Finally, we have Aaron Enil, and he's 30 years old, just 1 cap for Trinidad and Tobago since 2024. He plays for Montego Bay in Jamaica and was with clubs at home before that. And he was actually on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup, but I don't have any notes for him for the 2023 Gold Cup, which means he was kind of off the team. All in all, he got his first cap in May of 2024, and he started one of their remaining 11 games, was on the bench for 6 and not selected for just 4, but that includes the last 2 matches in March of 2025. So again, a lot of that uncertainty we're going to see, and there we go. Again, we're not going to summarize the position here. You can pretty much guess that Denzel Smith is pretty solid as a starter, but underneath him, who the backup keeper is going to be is anyone's guess. But we will guess in part 2. Hopefully we'll have a bit more information to guide us. Let's move on to central defense, or to defense in general, and we begin with central defense. So just repeating what I said in section 1, about half the time this is a 2-man central defense, and then half the time a 3-man position. Let's look at the candidates. No definite candidates here, but we do have David Aubrey as a likely candidate. We have Justin Garcia at the same level, likely. Sheldon Bateau is the first of our possible candidates. And we have Hosea Trimmingham, one of their newer players. Leland Archer is next, and he's at the possible but unlikely level. And then we have Jamal Jack at the same level. And actually, yes, we're going to kind of dispense with these players at the possible but unlikely or below quickly. So Leland Archer was a substitute in the 2023 Gold Cup, so he was called up to the squad there, and then was off the team for a while, but returned in September 2024, played a couple of games, but was not selected for the last 6 matches. So Leland Archer, possible but unlikely there. Jamal Jack has never been in a tournament, but returned after a 3-year absence in March 2024 and started 2 games. I think they were both friendlies there, but then not selected for 11 matches. So we consider him possible but unlikely. He's really been in and out of the team. Okay, and then we have seemingly off the squad players, Kareem Moses, who was actually a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup, lost his starting position there, and last appeared for the national team in October 2023, so shortly after the Cup. Luke Singh also saw action. He started game 3 of the 2023 Gold Cup, but that was his last appearance for the national team, so we consider him seemingly off the squad. And then Robert Primus played a couple of friendlies over this period, but did not appear after May 2024. So he's been off the team for pretty much for a year there. So we will give more information on those players if they are selected for the final squad. But meanwhile, we'll look at the more likely candidates. So going back to the top, and the likely candidate, David Aubrey, is 35 years old. So he is a veteran with 87 caps and 1 goal since 2012. Actually, in 2012, he played a couple of games for Guyana. So he was eligible for their team, but threw his lot in with Trinidad and Tobago. And he's currently playing for a team in Guatemala. He's played all over South and Central, well, all over the world, really, because he's played in Ecuador, Costa Rica, Finland, Kazakhstan, and yeah, well, I won't name them all because he seems to switch clubs fairly regularly. Aubrey David, his first tournament for the national team here was the 2013 Gold Cup, and he's been part of every tournament, so 5 tournaments over the course of his career. And recently, Aubrey has started 14 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was on the bench for 2 and not selected for 5 matches. So one of their more steady players, Aubrey David. Okay, next we have Justin Garcia. also a likely candidate. He's 30 years old and has 30 caps with 1 goal, and he's been with the national team since 2019. He's been with his club for even longer than that, Defence Force in Trinidad and Tobago since 2016. So a one-club man, quite the opposite of Aubrey David. Justin Garcia's first tournament was the 2021 Gold Cup. He was a starter in game 1 there, but lost his starting position. And for the 2023 Gold Cup, he was on the preliminary squad, but didn't make the final cut. However, he's become more of a starter now, starting 15 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, on the bench for 1 and not selected for 5 others. But that includes the last 2 matches. So we can only put him as a likely candidate here. And I'm guessing actually that Aubrey David, among the 5 matches he missed, might have been some recent matches, because otherwise we would have put him as a definite candidate. Okay, those are the 2 likely ones. At the possible level, we have Sheldon Bateau, and he is make that 34 years old, with 58 caps and 5 goals for Trinidad and Tobago since 2013. And he also has played for quite a few teams abroad. He's currently with Beveren in Belgium since 2023, but he's also played in Turkey, Norway, Russia, and Kazakhstan as well. Sheldon Bateau's first tournament was the 2015 Gold Cup. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2013 edition, but didn't make it. And actually hasn't made it to a few tournaments, because after 2015, he wasn't part of the squad for the 2019 or the 2021 Gold Cups, but he was a starter in the 2023 edition. Off the team for a little bit after that, but returned after a 10-month absence in May 2024, and started 2 of their remaining 12 games, subbed in for 1, and was not selected for 9 others, including the last 4 matches. So given his on and off history with the team, we were perhaps even a bit generous putting him as a possible candidate here, because he seems almost unlikely. But given the number of central defenders, they're going to have to choose some of these less likely ones. One of them could well be Hosea Trimington. He's the other possible candidate, and he's 29 years old, with 12 caps and 1 goal since 2017. So he's also been kind of on and off the team. In fact, mostly off, because he wasn't a consideration for a tournament until the 2023 Gold Cup, where he was only on the preliminary squad. And after that, he returned after an 11-month absence in May of 2022. In May of 2024. But from then, he did start 6 of their games, including the last 4, 6 of their 11 games, and was not selected for 5. But at least he has that recent selection in his favor. So Hosea Trimington, a possible candidate. Usually teams bring 5 or 6 central defenders. We may get a couple of out of position players, like Alvin Jones, who we'll meet soon, who has been playing in central defense. But I imagine some of these even possible but unlikely or seemingly off the squad players might be selected, because, as I say, 5 or 6 usually called up to the squad. Okay, that's it for central defenders. We've covered kind of 2.5 positions there. Let's go to left back position. And just about the position, left and right backs can sometimes push up to become wingers. And that sometimes happened with the 3-man defense in 5 games, actually, or roughly a quarter of the games over this period for Trinidad and Tobago. But half the time, half of those times, it was a 5-man defense. So in a quarter of the games, just the 5-man defense where the left and right back remain at the back. there. So in about 75% of the games, we do have a left back and a right back. Okay, let's look at the candidates over here. We have, first of all, Andre Raymond, who we have no definite candidates here, so just at the likely level there, Andre Raymond. And then we have relative newcomer Darnell Hospitales. Actually, not a relative newcomer, a downright newcomer, as you'll see when we do his bio soon. Then we have possible candidates in Tristan Hodge and Ross Russell Jr. And then two players seemingly off the squad, Justin Sadu and Jamil Neptune. So I'll deal with these two players right away, or here. So Justin Sadu last appeared for the national team in June of 2023, and actually that's the case too with Jamil Neptune. So neither of those guys have any tournament experience with the national team. So we'll go back to the top and look at our first likely candidate, Andre Raymond. He is 25 years old with 13 caps for the national team since 2023. He plays for St. Johnstone in Scotland since 2024. And he was with a couple of smaller teams in Portugal before that. So Andre Raymond started 7 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 8 other matches. So yes, we're going to see that over and over again, that even some of the likely candidates have kind of big gaps with the team where they weren't called up for a while. Okay, that's Andre Raymond. The second likely candidate is Darnell Hospitales, but he's a different story. He's actually new to the club. He's 26 years old, but got his first cap in 2025, and he has 4 caps, so involved or put on the field in all 4 games here in early 2025. He plays for Montego Bay in Jamaica since 2023, and did actually have a short stint for a team in the Czech Republic, a small team there, but otherwise was in the domestic league. Hospitales was selected actually for the 60-man preliminary squad way back in the 2021 Gold Cup. Didn't make the final cut there, and basically off the team since then. He did get 1 cap in February of 2022. Maybe that wasn't a cap, but an appearance on the bench, because I have his first cap in 2025 here. Oh no, okay, I see. That should be, got his first cap in February 2025 and started all 4 of their remaining games. 2 of those were as a left back and 2 of those were as a left attacking winger. So we're not dead sure what his position is actually, but I go with my sources here, which have him as a left back. Okay, the first of the 2 possible candidates is Tristan Hodge, and he's 31 years old with 34 caps for Trinidad and Tobago since 2016, and currently playing for North Carolina FC in the USA, and has been with several teams in the USA. Since about 2016, because he was loaned out to a couple of teams, even when he was with W Connection in Trinidad and Tobago from 2015 to 21. So anyway, now he's in the USA, and he was a starter, Tristan Hodge, in the 2021 Gold Cup, and also in or at least in 2 of the games for the 2023 Gold Cup, the first and the third games there. Again, a bit of a gap on the team after that, but he returned after an 11-month absence in June of 2024 and started 3 of their remaining 10 games. Subbed in for 3, but then not selected for the last 4 matches. So gives us a bit of confusion as to his status with the team. That's Tristan Hodge. Next, we have Ross Russell Jr. He's 33 years old with 21 caps for the national team since 2019. He's played his whole career in Trinidad and Tobago, currently with Police Force since 2024. And he was on the preliminary squad for the 2019 Gold Cup. Didn't make it, but was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, where he was actually a starter in game one, but was subbed out at halftime and lost his starting position there. And then not selected for the 2023 Gold Cup, despite, or even though he was on the preliminary roster there. Over the recent period, since the 2023 Gold Cup, Ross Russell Jr. has started 7 of their 21 games. He was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 9 matches, and that includes the last 4 matches. So just like Tristan Hodge there. So, yes, that makes us confused as to their status. I see I did miss one player who we should have put on the seemingly off the squad list. So in addition to Justin Seydoux and Jamil Neptune, we have Keston Julian, who last appeared on the bench in March of 2023. So just before the Gold Cup there. Okay, so all of the players we list here, by the way, do have some involvement since 2023 onward. Okay, that's a lot of candidates for the left back. And again, we're going to see that because there are players kind of in and out of the squad quite a bit. However, we begin with a steady presence who's listed as a right back, but over this period has played just as much in central defence. That is Alvin Jones. And we also have a likely candidate in Shannon Gomez, and 2 possible candidates, Isaiah Garcia and Jesse Williams, both of those at the possible level. And finally, Stefan Marcano, seemingly off the squad. Stefan Marcano last appearing for the team in June of 2023. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup, but didn't make it. Let's go back to our definite candidate up at the top then. It's Alvin Jones, and he's a veteran with 63 caps and 6 goals for Trinidad and Tobago since 2014. Alvin Jones is now 31 years old, and he probably has the biggest club affiliation here. He plays for Real Sociedad in Spain since 2025. And however, you know, he was with in Trinidad and Tobago for a couple of years before that. So I think he probably should have moved up to a bigger club. Before 2023, he was with clubs in the USA there, including Real Salt Lake in the USA in 2020. He's actually the younger brother of Jovan Jones, who we're going to meet a bit later. And Alvin Jones, his first involvement, even though he was on the team since 2014, was the 2019 Gold Cup. He was a starter there. Didn't appear in Game 3, though. A starter also in the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups. He scored a great goal in 2023 there against St. Kitts and Nevis. Alvin Jones has started 14 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, subbed in for 3 and not selected for 4 others. So definitely one of the more steady starters on Trinidad and Tobago, and they don't have a lot of those. Next, we have Shannon Gomez as a likely candidate. He is 29 years old with 19 caps for Trinidad and Tobago since 2015. So that's not a lot of caps given how long he's been on the team. Gomez plays for San Antonio FC in the United States and was been with a few clubs in the United States over the years, and with a few clubs in Trinidad and Tobago before that. He was on the preliminary squad for No, he was not. He was around the time of the 2015 Gold Cup, but wasn't a consideration until the 2021 Gold Cup, where he had returned from a 6-year absence, actually, to the preliminary squad, but didn't make the final cut. He was selected, though, Shannon Gomez, for the 2023 Gold Cup, but was a substitute in that tournament. Over the recent period, he started 8 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was on the bench for 4 and not selected for 9 others. That includes the last 2 matches, but we still consider him a likely candidate, Shannon Gomez. Okay, the first of our 2 possible candidates, Isaiah Garcia, is 27 years old, but only 3 caps for Trinidad and Tobago since 2019. And he plays for Defence Force in Trinidad and Tobago. So all of his clubs have been domestic there. He hasn't been part of any tournament and actually was off the team up until February 2024, where he started 3 of their remaining 11 games there and subbed in for 2. So that actually makes my my count inaccurate. I said he had 3 caps, but that looks like 5. And he was not selected for 7 matches. However, Isaiah Garcia was fielded in the last 4 games. So that recent participation kind of makes him look a bit more likely in our eyes. But overall, we landed on possible as his likelihood level there. Isaiah Garcia. Okay, the other possible candidate, Jesse Williams, is 24 years old, but has 15 caps for Trinidad and Tobago since 2021. And he plays for Chattanooga FC in the USA since 2024. He's been actually with several teams in the USA over the last couple of years. He played for a team in Northern Ireland as a youth club there. That's kind of interesting. Jesse Williams was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, but only made the preliminary squad for the 2023 edition. A bit of a surprise, though, because we had considered him a likely candidate. Over the recent period, Jesse Williams has started only 1 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, but he was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 7. And not selected for 11 matches, including the last 2. So Jesse Williams, a possible candidate there. All right, as I've alluded to before, we do have summaries for each of the positions where we kind of go over the recent period and say who has been playing, who's been in and out of the position. But we're going to save that for part 2 and just focus on the candidates here. In part 2, though, that'll help us decide who the starters are going to be. So we thought it was better done there. And also it would make the media cast too long if we did it here. Let's move on to the midfield. And we don't have any players we put in the versatile midfielder category, so we're going to go straight to defensive midfielders, and we won't get really into talking about the position here because they use so many different formations. Most of the time it was kind of two main players, but it got a bit complex and there's really not that much point to it. So you'll see in part 2 when we do the summary of players a little bit more detail, but it doesn't matter too much here. Actually, our first player here is Noah Powder. We could have put him actually as a versatile midfielder because he's coded as a left back, but he didn't really play that in this period. He played as a defensive midfielder and also as an attacking midfielder here. But we want to introduce him here as a likely candidate. So we'll put him as defensive midfielders this time around. We also have a possible candidate in Michel Poon-Angaron, who played at least 1 game as an attacking midfielder. And then the player we introduced in the Section 1, Nabil Hackshaw, who last appeared for the team in March of 2024. So actually did play a role over this period, but we'll talk about that in part two when we summarize the position. Let's look at the two candidates that we have here then. Noah Powder is 27 years old with 29 caps and 2 goals since 2021 for Trinidad and Tobago. He plays for Westchester Soccer Club in USA since 2024 and has actually played all his career in the USA because he was born there. So born in the USA and with several clubs, American clubs. Noah Powder's first tournament was the 2021 Gold Cup, where he was subbed into game one at halftime and gained a starting position there. And even there, he lined up as a left central midfielder in both of his starts. So we might have to change his coding here. That was the 2021 Gold Cup. Shockingly, he was not selected for the 2023 Gold Cup, although we considered him a definite candidate. He made the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. Noah Powder. Over the recent period, he started 5 of their 21 games. Gotta say, I thought it was more than that, but there we have it. 5 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was also subbed in for 6 and on the bench and not selected for 9 others. So we consider him a likely candidate, but we considered him even more likely in 2023, and he didn't make it. Hopefully he will this time. The possible candidate is Michel Poon-Angaron. Michel Poon-Angaron is 24 years old, and he's been with the national team since 2021 with 18 caps and 1 goal. And he plays for a new club in the USA, or a relatively new club, Portland Hearts of Pine. Portland Hearts of Pine in the USA. We're going to see 2 players actually with that club. And prior to that, he was in Trinidad and Tobago, but he has played for teams in El Salvador and Argentina as well, actually on Banfield B in Argentina. Banfield, a pretty big club down there. Michel Poon-Angaron, though, was on the preliminary squad for both of the 2021 and 23 Gold Cups, but hasn't made it to a tournament yet. Recently, he started 4 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 8 matches, including the last 2 matches. So he looked kind of set to be selected for this squad. But then those last 2 matches, where a lot of changes were made, creates a little bit of doubt. But I would say somewhere between possible and likely for Michel Poon-Angaron. Okay, that is defensive midfielders, and that position kind of bleeds over with the central midfield position quite a bit here. We have one definite candidate here, so we don't see many definite candidates on Trinidad and Tobago, but the definite candidate here is Andre Rampersad. And yes, we'll go through the names first here. Okay, let's go to the 2 likely candidates then. That is Daniel Phillips and Dante Gilbert. Sorry, my graphics are kind of misbehaving a little bit here. Dante Gilbert also at the likely level. At the possible level, we have 2 candidates, Stefan Yeats and John Paul Rochford. And then at the possible but unlikely level, we have Wayne Frederick. So I'll deal with these candidates right as we go here. So Wayne Frederick, born in the USA, and last appeared in, well, his only appearances were in on the bench in March 2025, his first and only appearance on the bench in March 2025. So actually, we should put him at the possible level for that recent appearance, but we'll leave him where he is for now and talk about him if he is selected for the squad. The other possible but unlikely is Adriel George. Adriel George Didn't start any games in this period. Was subbed in for one and on the bench for one, but not selected for 10 matches since his first cap in May of 2024. Very unlikely there. And then a couple of players seemingly off the squad. Kevon Goddard. Kevon Goddard last appeared for the team in May of 2024. And then Christian Leahim. Christian Leahim last appearing in November of 2023. So again, we will give more information if they're selected for the squad. But let's go back to the main candidates here. So we have Andre Rampersad as a definite candidate. He's 30 years old. He has 20 caps and 1 goal for Trinidad and Tobago since 2023. So a bit of a late joiner, but he is starting quite a bit. He plays in Canada for HFX Wanderers, Halifax Wanderers, since 2019. So he's been with them for a while. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup and didn't make that squad, but was a starter at least for the first 2 games in the 2023 Gold Cup. Over the recent period, Rampersad has started 14 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for one, but there were 6 matches that he was not selected for. So nevertheless, we consider Andre Rampersad a definite candidate. The first of the 2 likely candidates is Daniel Phillips. He is 24 years old with 16 caps for Trinidad and Tobago since 2021. And he is born in England and has played for clubs in Scotland and England. He's currently with Stevenage in England. That's a bit of a move down from Watford in England, where he was from 2019 to 2022. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup and actually selected for the final squad for the 2023 Gold Cup, but he was injured before the tournament and replaced there. Over the recent period, Daniel Phillips has started 8 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was on the bench for 3, but not selected for 10. So I'm guessing his recent involvement is what pushes him up to likely for us here. Next, we have Dante Gilbert, also likely, and he has been with Trinidad and Tobago since 2024 with 8 caps and 1 goal. He plays for Young PSV, so PSV's kind of B team or youth team there. Since 2023, he moved over from Trinidad and Tobago in 2023 there. And he got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2024. And then Dante Gilbert went on to start 2 of their remaining 10 games, as well as subbing in for 4 and being on the bench for 2. So actually just 2 matches that he was not selected for since joining in June of 2024. We have 2 possible candidates here. The first is Stefan Yeats. He's 25 years old and had 6 caps and 1 goal for Trinidad and Tobago since 2024. And he was born in Canada and has played for clubs in Canada through his whole career here, for York United in Canada since 2025. And then on the other side of the country, Pacific FC in Canada before that. And he kind of came through the Toronto FC system there, Stefan Yeats. He got his first cap, or his first appearance was on the bench in June of 2024, but he went on to start 4 of their remaining 10 games, as well as subbing in for 2 and on the bench for 2, and not selected for 2 matches. So I probably should have him at the likely level as well, but we'll leave it where it is for the time being. Next, we have at the possible level, John Rochford. And so he is 25 years old with 18 caps and 2 goals since 2019 for Trinidad and Tobago. And he's actually currently with Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago, but he has played outside the country for Antigua, one of the bigger teams in Guatemala there, and for a couple of smaller teams in the USA. And he was on the preliminary roster for both the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups. Actually a bit Shocking that he wasn't selected in 2023 because he had seemed a definite candidate there. But he was off the team and returned after a year-long absence in March 2024, starting only 2 of their 14 games and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 9, including the last 2 matches. So just a possible candidate, John Paul Rochford. Okay, those are the candidates in defensive and central midfield. And we'll just talk a little bit about left and right midfielders. They actually did use a 4-3-3 formation, or actually a couple of formations like a 3-5-2 that had 3 midfielders, so a left and a right midfielder. However, we don't really need to kind of separate them out because those positions were played by defensive and central midfielders. So when we do the position summary in part 2, we'll kind of cover those positions. All right, so we just have one more candidate to look at here because we have a category for general midfielders. These are generally players who are have not played enough for us to know what their position actually is. So we have Liam Burns just coded as a midfielder, and he is at the possible but unlikely level. So he first appeared in March of 2024. He did start 1 game and was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2 and not selected for 10 others, including the last 2 matches. So just the last 2 matches, almost at the possible level there, really. But we'll put Liam Burns, so we'll leave him where he is at the possible but unlikely level, kind of somewhere between those 2, really. All right, let's move on upfield to the attacking midfielders. And we'll talk about the position here first. So Soccer Files has come to see this and the right attacking position as dependent on the formation. So we kind of created this category of left and right attackers. It's usually either an attacking winger, if you think of a 4-4-2 formation, an attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation, or a left or right forward in a 4-3-3 formation. So think of the upper left and upper right quadrant of the field, basically. So in their many formations, Trinidad and Tobago did use all of these formations, but it's often the same player in those positions. So that's why we created this category, because it actually doesn't matter that much. Now, the first group we have here is called versatile attackers. We could put almost all of the names that we're going to name, especially the ones who have played more than a few games, because what we have in general in the attack is a lot of players making single appearances in the position, in each of the positions. But if we take someone like Jovan Jones, we see, he started a couple of games on the left, maybe 1 game on the right, maybe 1 game in the middle and 1 as a forward, something like that. So we're going to say kind of single appearances by players, but actually it may be players from one position playing 1 game in another position, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it gets quite complicated here, which will become more clear when we do the summaries of the positions in part 2. But let's just stick with the candidates here. We've moved some of them around based on where they mostly started. And the first one is, we're going to left attackers here. The first one is a likely candidate in Jovan Jones. And then we have a definite candidate in Ajani Fortune. He's actually coded as a central midfielder, but most of his starts were, or all of his starts were over here. No, I think he did start somewhere else. Anyway, most of them as a left attacker. We have Rion Moore, again, appeared in various positions, but primarily as a left attacker, and he is coded as a left winger. Most of the sources I use say left winger rather than left attacker. We also have a third possible candidate in Tyree Spicer. So we'll come back to those players, but let's deal with less likely players first. Possible but unlikely Lindell Sween. Lindell Sween didn't start any games over the most recent period. He did actually sub in for 3 and was on the bench for 1, but not selected for 8 matches, including the last 2. So an outside possibility there, maybe halfway to the possible level there. The other possible but unlikely is Tyrese Bailey, and similarly didn't appear for the last 2 matches, didn't start any games, but was subbed in or on the bench a little bit over the period. Tyrese Bailey. And then one player seemingly off the team is Marcus Joseph. Marcus Joseph was involved in the 2021 Gold Cup, has kind of been in and out of the team since then, but last appeared in March of 2023, so more out than in over the recent period. Let's go back and look at the more likely candidates here. And we start with Jovan Jones. Again, older brother of Alvin Jones, who we met earlier. Jovan Jones is 34 years old, and he has 99 caps and 14 goals for Trinidad and Tobago since 2010. So he's back in Trinidad and Tobago with Police FC since 2023, but he played mostly in the United States for several teams prior to that, and then a couple of other countries, Germany and Finland as well. Jovan Jones's first tournament was the 2013 Gold Cup. He was a starter in that and in the 2015 Gold Cup, just a sub in the 2019 edition, and then just the preliminary squad in the 2021 edition. But he came back and was on the squad in 2023 for the 2023 Gold Cup, but just a sub in the first 2 games there before starting the last game. And then actually off the team. So he returned after a 15-month absence in October 2024, but from there started 4 of their remaining 6 games and was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. So kind of making a comeback before the tournament here is Jovan Jones at the likely level. At the possible level, the first of our 3 candidates is Ajani Fortune. So he is 23 years old with 10 caps and 1 goal since 2021, and he plays for Atlanta United in the United States since 2023. In fact, Fortune was born in the United States. He was on the squad for the Gold Cup in 2023, just a sub in the first game there. He actually started the second, but was subbed out at halftime. And over the recent period, Ajani Fortune has started just two of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was also subbed in for 2, but those do include the last 2 matches there. And he was on the bench for 1 and not selected for 16 others. So really, it's his recent participation that puts him here. I really should have Rion Moore ahead of him here. So I will change their positions because Rion Moore has been more involved during this period. Rion Moore is 29 years old with 33 caps and 10 goals since 2018. He plays for Defence Force in Trinidad and Tobago, actually his 3rd stint with them since 2025. Prior to that, he was with a team in Canada, Pacific SC. We saw another player with them, and he also played for Municipal, one of the big teams in Guatemala there. Rion Moore was on the preliminary squad for the 2019 Gold Cup, didn't make the cut, but was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, at least for games 1 and 3 there. He too was shockingly not selected for the 2023 Gold Cup. He had seemed a definite candidate, so Trinidad and Tobago took us by surprise quite a bit there, and I think they will here too. So not part of the 2023 Gold Cup squad, but started 7 of their 21 games since they time of the 2023 Gold Cup. He also subbed in for 3 and was on the bench for 1, but not selected for 10 matches, including the last 6. So Rion Moore actually seemed like he was integrating more into the squad over the period, and then at the end not selected. So yes, we can only put him at the possible level here. The third candidate then is Tyrese Spicer. He's new to the squad. He's 25 years old, but got his first cap in 2025, and he plays for Toronto FC in Canada since 2023. And his first and only appearance were twice in March 2025. However, he started both of those games. So, you know, he could be replacing a player and kind of kicking him off the squad, or he could have been just tried out. It's only 2 games, so we're not really sure, and we put Tyrese Spicer at the possible level here. Okay, those are the left attackers. Again, we'll summarize the position in part 2, but let's move over to the right side, and probably the player we should have put at the versatile level is Ryan Telfer. He's coded as a left attacker, but has actually played on the right a little bit more. But he did play on the left and even as a forward too. However, he's only at the possible level here. And we'll tell you why shortly after introducing the candidates. Also at the possible level is Kahim Thomas. And then we have Kaylee Alvray, who we've talked about earlier, but he's actually coded as a right winger. And well, we have to deal with him here because he's at the possible but unlikely level. Kale Alvray, he's 21 years old, already has 17 caps for the national team since 2023, and plays for Cavalier in Jamaica, a couple of teams in Jamaica there, and then some teams in the USA, Sporting Kansas City 2 and Minnesota United 2. That means they're B teams there. You would think he was born in America with all that, even his youth clubs being American. But in fact, he was born in France, and that's because his father, Stéphane Alvray, was a former player for Guadeloupe, and was the manager. Oh my God, I'm getting into complications that I don't want to. Anyway, he was involved with Guadeloupe. I think he was playing in France when Kale Alvray was born. He actually made a pretty good impression in the 2023 Gold Cup, Kale Alvray. He was a starter, but I'm going into way too much detail here because he's only... Well, he's possible but unlikely, but I'm actually pretty sure he'll be selected. But the reason we have him as possible but unlikely is he started 3 of their games, 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 10 others. And the key point is not selected for the last 6 matches. So, you know, we kind of had to put him at the possible but unlikely level. But he has been involved over the period, and again made a good impression there in the Gold Cup in 2023. Well, on me at least. Apparently not on the manager because he lost his starting position, but he was subbed into games 2 and 3. Anyway, way too much information there for a player possible but unlikely. But as I say, actually kind of think he will make the squad. But we should be spending our time on the players who are more likely. So we'll go back to the possible Ryan Telfer. So note here that there are no definite or likely candidates, and you know, that's the case for Trinidad and Tobago. That means no one has really nailed down the position here. So we're going to see in part 2 when we do the summaries that really no one kind of nailing down the positions. Ryan Telfer was born in Canada. Sorry, I should start where I usually start. Ryan Telfer is 31 years old now, and he has 32 caps for the national team and an impressive 10 goals, so almost 30% there. And he's been with Trinidad and Tobago since 2019, and he was born in Canada. Now's the time to say that, and is currently playing for a Canadian club, HFX Wanderers. He's actually played for several Canadian clubs, moves around quite a bit, I must say. And so by several, I mean like 6 or 7, as well as for a couple of American clubs and for Nia Salamis in Cyprus too. He was part of the 2021 Gold Cup, Ryan Telfer, and was just a sub in 2 of the games, but started one of them as well. In the 2023 Gold Cup, he started game 1, but then lost his starting position. There. Over the recent period, Ryan Telfer has started 8 of their 21 games in various positions since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for 2 and on the bench for 1, but was not selected for 10 matches, including the last 4. So again, those last few matches, the changes made in them causing a bit of confusion here. One of the players who was called up for the last 4 games was Kaheem Thomas, the other possible candidate. He's 22 years old and has been with the national team since 2024 and has 5 caps. 5 caps there. He appeared on the preliminary roster for the 2023 Gold Cup, despite never having been called up for the team. And over the recent period, he actually got his first cap on the bench just before the Gold Cup there in June of 2023, but then was off the squad for 9 months and returned in March 2024 to start 2 of the remaining 15 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and being on the bench for 1, but not selected for 9 matches. So again, another player with kind of gaps in his record for the national team. So Kaheem Thomas, a possible candidate. And that's all we have on the right, just those 3. So we move on to the central attacking midfield position. So just a little bit about the position. They use this in a little less than half of the games that they played over this period. So you can imagine it being there in a 4-2-3-1 formation. But if it's something like a 4-4-2 formation or something like that, there's no real central attacking midfielder. We have moved Dwayne Muckett. He's actually coded as a left midfielder, but we've moved him here and he's a possible candidate. And sorry, I shouldn't have put him first. I'll just actually remove that and come back to him later because we have 2 likely candidates over here. So the first likely candidate is Nathaniel James, and the second is Kevin Molino here, and then then we get to Dwayne Muckett at the possible level. And a couple of players seemingly off the squad. Judah Garcia last appeared for the national team in March of 2023. And then we have Malik Khan, sometimes called Jesse Khan, last appeared in the 2023 Gold Cup, so he was on the squad there. And we have quite a few. Jomal Williams, last appearing in March of 2023. Matthew Wu Ling, last appeared in May 2024. And finally, Andre Fortune. I honestly don't know why we have him on the list, because he last appeared in September of 2022. So actually shouldn't be on the list. Anyway, let's go back to the top and look at our 2 likely candidates, beginning with Nathaniel James. He's just 21 years old with 12 caps and 4 goals for Trinidad and Tobago since 2023. And he's the other player with the new team in the USA, Portland Hearts of Pine. as in Pine Tree, since 2025. He played for Mount Pleasant in Jamaica prior to that, and actually was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup, despite being very young at that time. Didn't make the cut. Actually hadn't appeared for the team when named to the squad. Didn't make the cut there. Didn't make the cut in 2023 either, but was on the preliminary squad there too. But recently has started 5 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for 6 and being on the bench for 7. So that leaves just 3 matches that he was not called up for. So that's why we consider Nathaniel James a likely candidate. The other candidate is a veteran. He has 66 caps and 25 goals since 2010. Oh my goodness, I haven't even named him yet. It's Kevin Molino. Let me start again. Kevin Molino is 35 years old. And has 66 caps and 25 goals since 2010. He's back in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, with Defence Force since 2024, but was with Columbus Crew in the USA for a couple of years before that, and has played for fairly big teams in the USA, Minnesota United and Orlando City there. He was part of the squad for the 2013 Gold Cup. He subbed into that tournament, but shockingly not selected for the 2015 Gold Cup, but has been selected for every tournament since. 2019 Gold Cup, where he scored a gorgeous goal. I think that was the goal of the tournament. Anyway, I can't remember. 2021 Gold Cup, he was just a sub in that tournament, but in the 2023 Gold Cup, he was a starter again and captain of the team there. So Kevin Molino, despite being captain of the team, returned after a 15-month absence, so just over a year there, in November 2024. But then he started 2 of their remaining 6 games and subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 1 and not selected for 1 other. So his recent participation has been good, long history with the team. So we consider Kevin Molino a likely candidate here. Next, we have Dwayne Muckett. Dwayne Muckett is 30 years old with 28 caps and 3 goals since 2018. Currently playing in Oman since 2025. He was in Trinidad and Tobago before that, but has played for teams in the USA and Portugal. Kind of seems to always kind of return to Trinidad and Tobago, Dwayne Muckett. He's been part of teams' tournaments since the 2019 Gold Cup. On the bench for the 2019 edition and just 1 appearance as a sub in 2023, and then actually didn't make the squad in 2020. Let me back up there. A sub in 2021, didn't make the squad in 2023. Just a preliminary squad there. Over the recent period, Dwayne Muckett has started 6 of their 21 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and on the bench for 3, but not selected for 9 matches, including the last 6 matches. So we really wonder, are these guys off the team or are they going to come back to the team? I guess we put him at the possible level, thinking he could come back to the team. So that is central players who've been playing in the central attacking midfield. And let's move on to the forwards. So let's talk about secondary strikers a bit, because among their many formations, they have had positions that it would be like something like a 4-4-1-1, where they use this position. They also have a couple of players coded as strikers. We may have to review this, but we have 2 players coded as strikers, so we might as well deal with them here. The fact is, though, when we summarize these positions, we kind of folded this into the attacking midfield position anyway. The player who's coded as a striker and is at the likely level is Real Gil. And he's 22 years old, but has 16 caps and 2 goals for Trinidad and Tobago since 2023. And he plays for Huntsville City in the USA. He moved over from Trinidad and Tobago in 2024 for that. Real Gill was part of the squad for the 2023 Gold Cup, and he was subbed into 2 games there. And recently has started 4 of their 21 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for 6 and being on the bench for 4. So not selected for 7 matches. So all in all, that adds up to likely for us for Real Gill. Again, plays in various positions and is actually coded as a right midfielder by my main source there, so we might have to change that. The other one, though, is just at the seemingly off the squad level, and that is Samari Powder. Samari Powder was born in the USA, last played for the national team in June of 2023. So seemingly off the squad is he. So let's go on to the actual forwards and or players coded as forward. We begin again, no definite candidate here. Nobody's played enough for us to think that they'll definitely be selected. At the likely level, though, we have Isaiah Lee. And then at the possible level, we have Kevon Woodley and Brent Sam. We have next a bunch of players at the possible but unlikely level. So Levi Garcia, actually 45 caps for the national team and was a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup, but not selected for the last 9 matches. He did struggle with injuries throughout this period too, Levi Garcia, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him selected if he's healthy. Malcolm Shaw is our second possible but unlikely candidate. Also was a part of the Gold Cup in 2023, but not selected for the last 8 matches. And then we have Jerry Al Arthur. Jerry Al Arthur came into the team for the friendlies in February 2025 and didn't start but was subbed in for one of those games, but wasn't carried over to the March 2024 games. So we consider him as just having been tried out there. And we go down to the players seemingly off the squad, beginning with Kadeem Corbin. Kadeem Corbin last appeared in the 2023 Gold Cup, and then Rundle Winchester. Actually, Rundle Winchester came back after a 5.5-year absence and started a couple of games in May of 2023, but didn't kind of continue with the squad there. Okay, so that is it. Let's take a look at the more likely candidates here, beginning with Isaiah Lee at the likely level. He's 26 years old with 14 caps and 3 goals, but that's since 2018, so not that many caps given how long he's been on the team. He's played in Trinidad and Tobago his whole career. No, wait, he was with a college team in the USA actually, but his senior career has been in the domestic league. Isaiah Lee was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but not the 2023 Gold Cup, and he returned after an almost 3-year absence in September 2024. But from there, he started 5 of their remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and being on the bench for 2. So that was just 2 matches that he wasn't selected for since his return. So we consider Isaiah Lee a likely candidate. Next, at the possible level, the first of 2 candidates is Kevon Woodley. He's quite old, actually, 39 years old in terms of being a soccer player, because he's a lot younger than me. And Kevon Woodley with the team since 2024, so a real late joiner. with them. He has 5 caps and 1 goal, and he plays in Trinidad and Tobago. So he got his first cap in May of 2024 when he was 38 years old, and started 3 of their remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and on the bench for 2. However, Kevon Woodley not selected for the last 4 matches. So that would be a nice story if he made it onto the squad, and we'll have to see. The other possible candidate is Brent Sam. So Brent Sam is 29 years old and has been with the team since 2021 with 6 caps and no goals. And he also has played in the domestic league there with Defence Force since 2018 in his case. And he returned after a 2.5-year absence in September 2024 and started 2 of their remaining 21 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and on the bench for 2. But there were 14 matches that he was not selected for. And again, we've seen several players with kind of gaps like that in their time with the national team. Okay, that brings us to the end of 4s and actually to the end of section 2, our look at the players. So let us move on to section 3. And in section 3, we welcome new listeners here because we are releasing a short version of this, part 1 of 2 on Trinidad and Tobago's players. So I'll just speak to the new listeners briefly. In the full version, we introduced the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad. And if you want the details on the players, I recommend going to the full version, and that will cover our reasons for putting them in the category that we put them in, and for some of the more likely players, career information on those players. So if you've been listening since the beginning, this next part will be just a review for you, and for the new people, just a flyby of the of what we discussed in section 2 mainly. So I'll just say we're not concerning ourselves with predicting starters. In this case, we're going to do that in part 2 of the video when the final rosters are released. So we are just looking at the candidates and referring to their likelihood of making it. So even if someone is a definite candidate, it doesn't mean they're necessarily a starter. Okay, we begin with the manager situation. We have Dwight York. He came in right at the end of 2024 there, and so has really just coached them through a couple of friendlies and the March 2025 Gold Cup qualifiers, and he made a lot of changes, I might say, so that leaves us a bit confused as to the likelihood of candidates here. Anyway, we tried our best. At the goalkeeper level, it is fairly settled. We have a definite candidate in Denzel Smith. What's not settled is who his backup would be. We have likely candidate Jabari St. Hilaire. But then we have 4 possible candidates, Marvin Phillip, Adrian Fonset, Christopher Biggett, and Aaron Inell. And we won't really mention players below that level of likelihood unless there's a reason to. In this case, we do have a reason to mention Nicholas Frenderup because despite not being that old, he is retired from soccer, their starter in the 2023 Gold Cup. So we're not expecting to see his name on the list. That's goalkeepers. We move to defense. And for central defenders, like many categories here, we don't have any definite candidates, which is indicative of them really not settling on players that much. It's a bit better in defense than up front. But anyway, we have 2 likely candidates for central defense, Aubrey David and Justin Garcia, and then 2 possible candidates, Sheldon Bateau and Hosea Trimmingham. So that's actually not a lot of candidates. We do have Alvin Jones, who's a left back, kind of coming in to play in central defense. That's often when it's a 3-man defense, but we think some of the less likely players may have to be called in because they usually bring 5 or 6. Okay, let's move on to left back. Again, no definite candidate here, but we have two likely candidates, Andre Raymond and newcomer Darnell Hospitales. And then two possible candidates, Tristan Hodge and Ross Russell Jr., who haven't been selected for the last few matches under the new manager. For right backs, I think I made a mistake and said Alvin Jones was a left back who plays in central defence, but actually he's a right back. He is a definite candidate, Alvin Jones, and we also have a likely candidate in Shannon Gomez here, and then two possible candidates, Isaiah Garcia and Jesse Williams. Moving on to the midfield, or at least the defensive end of the midfield, we start with defensive midfielders, and here we have likely candidate Noah Powder. Excuse me, let me try one more time. Noah Powder, who is actually coded as a left defender, but has been playing as a defensive midfielder and also as a left attacking winger. Noah Powder is a likely candidate, and we have a possible candidate in Michel Poon-Angaron there. And in the central midfield, we have a definite candidate, Andre Rampersad, who sometimes plays as an attacking midfielder. And we have two likely candidates in Daniel Phillip and Dante Gilbert, and two possible candidates in Stefan Yeats and John Paul Rochford. Okay, and you'll see there, although I won't name them, like four candidates at the possible but unlikely level or below. We have a lot of that with Trinidad and Tobago because, again, players seem to come and go into the squad there. We're not going to deal with left and right midfielders because those positions are covered by defensive and central midfielders. But we have one general midfielder at the possible but unlikely level, almost possible though, Liam Burns. So he's just classified as a midfielder right now, but actually we think he's a little higher than possible but unlikely. Moving on to the attacking midfielders, we didn't put any players in the versatile attackers position, but we could have put a lot of them because the players we're going to talk about here actually do kind of move around and play different positions on the field. But we kind of tried to put them where they mostly played. So for left attackers, unsurprisingly, we have no definite candidate because they're kind of choosing a different player every game. We have a likely candidate in Jovin Jones, and then three possible candidates, Rion Moore, central midfielder Ajani Fortune, who's been playing over here a little bit, and Tyrese Spicer. Those are the three possible candidates in addition to likely candidate Jovin Jones. Over on the right side, not only do we not have a definite, we don't even have a likely candidate here, but we have Ryan Telfer, who's coded as a left winger. He's basically playing everywhere, but he did play four or five matches in a row as right attacker at the beginning of the period. We also have a possible candidate, Kahim Thomas, there, and I will mention possible but unlikely Cale Overy. Hasn't started recent matches, but I suspect he'll be brought in. Central attackers, no definite candidate here, but two likely candidates, Nathaniel James and Kevin Molino, and then a possible candidate in Dwayne Muckett. We have five players seemingly off the squad. All of those made some appearance from 2023 onwards, but have not been on the squad recently enough for us to think they're going to make it. Okay, at the forward level, we have two players coded as strikers. So we put them in the secondary striker category. The first one is the likely candidate, Real Gill. And actually, he's the only one we'll mention because the other is seemingly off the squad. And then moving on to forwards, again, no definite candidate here, but a likely candidate in Isaiah Lee. And then two possible candidates, Kevon Woodley and Brent Sam. And I think I'll mention possible but unlikely candidate Levi Garcia, because I have a sneaking suspicion that he might be selected. All right, that's it for our run through the squad, our summary of Section 2, basically. And we move on to a review of injuries. Well, this part at least is simple for Trinidad and Tobago. No injury concerns at this point. So we're doing this near the end of May. And so actually not that long till the Cup, but hopefully they won't get any injuries concerns, but we will review this in part 2 if any new ones come up. Okay, on to closing thoughts. And I've kind of alluded to it all the way through. I hope I don't seem too insulting to Trinidad and Tobago, but the situation does seem a bit chaotic. We saw in Section 1 just a wide variety of formations they use, so they can't seem to settle on a consistent formation. And then we saw not so much in defense, but in other positions, especially attacking positions, really just a new player in every game. So we don't see any player kind of consistently starting in the same position up front. So between that and the formations, it must be very difficult to players to kind of get used to each other's style if it's a different set of players every game. So I'll just say, very unsettled here, and talk about it here. In my early stages of preparing this mediacast, I was curious why there were so few definite candidates and so many names, because as I said, all of the players listed here have appeared in 2023 or later. And it's because, especially in offense, as I said, almost a different player in every game. And that's actually under both managers. But when the new manager came in November, we saw almost a new squad. Players who had been fairly steady selections for the squad, not selected for the last few games, and then new players brought in. And I got to say, this seems to be, so it all leads to a lack of stability in the positions. And I wonder if this is a bigger pattern too, because another thing I mentioned during Section 2 is that there are gaps in players' careers. So when they're not starting, it's not like they're on the bench. A lot of times they're off the team, and they're off the team for 6 months or a year or something. And then we get another player who hasn't been on the team for a year coming back into the team. So I was also curious why they don't have a lot of veterans, and that's probably the reason why. They do have some players with 60 caps or more, but not as many as other teams seem to have. So players coming in and out of the team. So again, this doesn't seem to be just in this period, but over the last few years, at least for Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, a bit of a concern there, and I'm hoping that Trinidad and Tobago in the Cup will kind of settle into a squad that is comfortable working with each other. That's my piece. Okay, let's move on to the last order of business here, and that is previewing part 2. So this is just part 1, our look at the candidates and their likelihood of making it. Part 2 is focused on who actually did make it when the final squad lists are released. So we will keep an eye on notable non-selections, players we expected to be selected but weren't, and surprise inclusions, players we didn't expect but were. We're expecting a lot of those for Trinidad and Tobago, and maybe even a few new players who we'll introduce you to. Any updates on injuries? Right now they don't have any, and hopefully it'll stay that way. And then our focus in part 2 is looking at who's been playing in the position over the last couple of years, and who we think are going to be starters. So we will look forward to that in part 2, and that is it for our look at part 1, the candidates, and we hope you join us for part 2. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.